All right. I tried to take a little bit easy today. I just put up the meme video, and I saw Caleb Maupin's video, and I'm like, why not re-upload this? So I do want to say I'm kind of glad I do these streams now because I got a little more enlightened, such as calling myself a racialist instead of just being like that, and also maybe possibly just calling myself white may not be the best thing. So shout out to them. See, now people like me, we try to adapt. We try to adapt to an ever-changing world. We try to be chameleons. At the end of the day, I'm kind of stuck in my ways, admittedly, but I know at the end of the day, you have to give the image that you are progressive nowadays, at least in certain jobs. Others, you can act how you want to, particularly, if you're an iron worker in general, and you start saying the N word, this and that, it's pretty normal, even in today's age. But if you're working in an insurance place and you start saying the N word, that's a no-go zone. You don't do that, You're going to get yourself caught. And you got to be able to play dumb about certain things, People like us that fell down the political rabbit hole and seeing the feijoa that we've seen and everything else, you got to be able to play dumb. And you got to do it convincingly. Who knows what sort of technology is going to exist where they can read your mind and whatnot. I'm sure that you could beat those too. I'm sure that someone will find a way, but you got to be able to do that. You got to be able to adapt. And sometimes, like I say, that one stream that I privated, hold on. Was a little wild, but I said, okay, let's put that on the back burner. All right, let's come up with some things. So to me, you got to be able to do that. You can't just be, once again, it's just like, what was it, 2016, 2017, if you got the sort of, the alt-right haircut, even ordinary normies who got that haircut were being attacked, So something you put in your own mind, you say, okay, same thing with tattoos, this and that. Depends on what you get into. Depends on what job you do. But you got to be able to adapt. And you got to be able to code switch, Shout out to the lefties that I learned that thing from, that I learned that word from. But you have to be able to code switch. You have to be able to learn what to say and what not to say. People like me, luckily, I don't have a very good memory, as y'all can tell, as longtime subscribers will know. And I could just kind of forget stuff pretty quick. My mom would tell me, oh, we're gonna make this for dinner, and unless she circles it on the board, we have what is it? Not the chalkboard, but a erasable board, But it's like I can just forget. I'll just be like, huh? What'd you say? So, but that's what God does. God gives us things to protect us with. And I know I sound like a preacher by saying that, but he does. God protects fools and idiots. And, I definitely fit into that category. But you got to be able to do that. You got to be able to learn to put that mask on, The best trolls are not the ones that are just like, F you, bad person, this and that. No. You got to go slowly into it. You got to work slowly into it, and you give them little things here and there, where you sound like you're a believer. If there's just a few people in there, throw it out there, man. Put it out there. that you agree with them, this and that, and then kind of slowly get into it. That's kind of how it works. I'm just telling y'all, man. The world is changing. That's not necessarily good. That's not necessarily bad. I'm just saying it's changing. COVID-19. A lot of people are out of work. A lot of people aren't going to come back to work. And now the folks that were saying UBI isn't going to happen, this and that. That's up in the air right now, isn't it? Now we're going to have paper ballots or something else. I mean, who knows? We could be voting online. Who knows? Imagine who's going to fuck that up, Trying to be paranoid. That way my mom doesn't come in. I know. I know nobody's up, and that's okay. There's like a cutoff where it's like, I know if I go for like 15 minutes or more, y'all be like, oh, hey, what's going on? This and that. I just want to make this short. That way y'all can watch it and you can get your own takes on it. I don't want to be up for like 3 hours or something. I'm reviewing this gal Bad Bunny on Twitch, apparently. And actually, before I talk about that, I was listening to this other streamer on Twitch. I mean, Twitch, of course, is just, lefty paradise, basically, or at least left-wing ideas type of paradise. And then, D-Live is more the right-wing type of thing, And, of course, there was Streamed Out Me, but, rest in peace. But, but she was talking about the SPLC. I was like, oh, Lord. So I had to type out there. It's like, okay, yeah, SPLC is problematic. Morris Dees was paying money to the Ku Klux Klan to, get them to stay away from different, or excuse me, I think it was the White Union or something like that. Let me see here. Reckoning of Morris Dees in the Southern Poverty Law Center. Okay, here we go. Show a bit of this here. I think I did a stream about this a while back, but why not? We'll do it again. So this is just from last year. But yeah, I mean, like I was saying, everything just passes by so quick. The Reckoning of Morris Dees. If I'm thinking right, this is one I've read before, but I'll say it again. Yeah. Stunning dismissal of Morris Dees. Okay, I'm getting there. Yeah. The Law Center had a way of turning idealists into cynics. Like most liberals, our view of the SPLC before we arrived had been shaped by its off-cited listings of U.S. hate groups, its reputation for winning cases against the Ku Klux Klan and Aryan nations. Okay, yeah, this is the story. I've read this like at least a few times, so I should be able to find it. A decade or so before I'd arrived, Center's reputation as a beacon of justice had taken some hits from reporters who'd peered behind the facade. Montgomery Advertiser had been a Pulitzer finalist for a series that documented, among other things, staffers' allegations of racial discrimination within the organization. Oh, screw it. I'll just talk about this instead of talking about that Bad Bunny. Who cares about that? I guess she's been talked about enough, according to what I've heard. Anyway, great Southern journalist John Egerton. It's just one G, so I don't know if it's Edgerton or Egerton. Oh well. Writing for The Progressive, had painted a damning portrait of Dees, the center's longtime mastermind, as a super salesman and master fundraiser who viewed civil rights work mainly as a marketing tool for bilking gullible northern liberals. And that's true. That's what it is. That's what the SPLC is. Just because the thing is, the founder of I'm trying to think of it now. I'll read down there because it's going to come up in this one. Coworkers stealthily passed these articles to me. It was a rite of passage for new staffers, a cautionary heads up about what we'd step into with our noble intentions. and the unchecked power of the lavishly compensated white men at the top of the organization, Dees and the Center's president, Richard Cohen, made staffers pessimistic that any of these issues would ever be addressed. I expected there'd be a lot of creative bickering, a sort of democratic free-for-all. My friend Brian, a journalist who came aboard a year after me, said one day, but everybody's so deferential to Morris and Richard, it's like a fucking monarchy around here. The work could be meaningful and gratifying, but it was hard for many of us not to feel like we'd become pawns in what was, in many respects, a highly profitable scam. Like I say, this is where, yeah. Oh boy, Mark Cernovich, oh buoy, you buoy. While right-wingers tweeted gleefully about the demise of a figure they'd long vilified. Hate group founder had been fired by his hate group. The alt-right provocateur Mike Cernovich chirped. Yeah, whatever. We don't care about Mike Cernovich. He's made a fool of himself, this and that. Yep. Which is sparked by the resignation of a senior attorney, Meredith Horton, the highest-ranking African-American woman at the center. A number of staffers subsequently signed on to 2 letters of protest to the center's leadership, alleging that multiple reports of sexual harassment by Dees through the years have been ignored or covered up, and sometimes result in retaliation. Once again, this is the whole type of thing that you have to counter people on. And it's like, you would cancel these people for various types of things or for what they do, and yet you bring up all this type of stuff that goes on in the SPLC. A lot of these breadtube folks and whatnot, I know, you got to talk about them because people like Vosh, they got almost 150K subscribers. You got to talk about this. But at least to me, screw it. You know what? I don't know if they're going to bust me or not. I'm going to go ahead and show the screen. Like I say, there we go. Probably get myself busted for this. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, anyway, I'll just show it. I don't know if it'll let me do the chat or not. If it saves it. I'll go ahead and put the link anyway. There we go. Great article, by the way. It's a great article. Staffers wrote that Dees' firing was welcome but insufficient. Their large concern, they emphasized, was a widespread pattern of racial and gender discrimination by the center's current leadership, stretching back many years. The SPLC has since appointed Tina Tchen, a former chief of staff for Michelle Obama, to conduct a review of its workplace environment. If Cohen and other senior leaders thought that they could shunt the blame, the riled-up staffers seemed determined to prove them wrong. One of my former female colleagues told me that she didn't want to go into details of her harassment for this story, but she believes the focus should be on the SPLC's current leadership. Interesting. Donald Trump's presidency, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here we go. 1971, when the center opened. Okay, here we go. If you're outraged about the path President Trump has taken, I urge you to join us in the fight against the mainstreaming of hate. A direct mail appeal signed by Dees last year read, "Please join our fight today with a gift of $25, $35, or $100 to help us. Working together, we can push back against these bigots." Yeah. Yeah, well, they pushed it against you, didn't they? In 1971, when the center opened, Dees was already a colorful and controversial figure in Alabama. While studying law at the University of Alabama in the late 1950s, Dees sold holly wreaths and birthday cakes, published a student telephone directory, dabbed in real estate. He also worked for George Wallace's first unsuccessful bid for governor in 1958. Ooh. It's always interesting. Upon graduating in 1960, Dees teamed up with another ambitious student, Millard Fuller, who go on to found Habitat for Humanity. That's what I was thinking of. Habitat for Humanity. They opened a direct mail business. In Montgomery, selling doormats, tractor seat cushions, and cookbooks. Overriding purpose. Morris and I, from the first day of our partnership, shared the overriding purpose of making a pile of money. There you go. There you go. There you go. At least he's honest about it. I got more respect for this Millard Fuller than any sort of business, Yeah. That's not on his wiki page, I bet. Yeah, that's not on his wiki page. According to Fuller, our fee was paid by the Klan. Yep, exactly. Fuller would later recall we were not particular about how we did it. I'm going to take it in here. I'm going to take this in here just right quick. There we go. Sorry when you live with two older boomers and they go back and forth, going to the bathroom. Okay. Okay. In 1961, they defended one of the men charged with beating up Freedom Riders at a bus terminal in Montgomery. According to Fuller, our fee was paid by the Klan and the White Citizens Council. Yowza, yowza, yowza. Once again, kind of a bit cringe, isn't it? Our fee, there it is right there. Our fee was paid by the Klan and the White Citizens Council. In the late 1960s, Dees sold the direct mail operation to the Times Mirror Company of Los Angeles between $6 and $7 million. But he soon sniffed out a new avenue for his marketing genius. In 1969, he successfully sued to integrate the local YMCA after two black children returned away from summer camp. 2 years later, he co-founded the Law Center with another Montgomery attorney, Joe Levin Jr. Yes. Yep, let's keep it there. He volunteered to raise money for George McGovern's presidential campaign. He was the prelude to Bernie Sanders in a lot of ways. Different in a lot of ways as well, but yeah. And with McGovern's blessing, used his donor list of 700,000 people to help launch the SPLC's direct mail operations. The center won some big cases early on, including a lawsuit that forced the Alabama legislature to divide into single-member districts, ensuring the election of the state's first African-American lawmaker since Reconstruction. In 1975, the SPLC started a defense fund for Joan Little, a black prisoner in North Carolina who'd stabbed to death a jailer who attempted to rape her. The case was a national sensation and drew attention to the intrepid little operation in Montgomery. Dees, of course, had already positioned the Law Center to capitalize on the positive press. A decade or so later, the center began to abandon poverty law, representing death row and defendants and others who lacked the means to hire proper representation, to focus on taking down the Ku Klux Klan. This was a seemingly odd mention, given that the Klan, which had millions of members in the 1920s, was mostly a spent force by the mid-'80s, and they're definitely dead today. But of course, everyone still talks about the Ku Klux Klan as if it's some huge thing still. No, it isn't. And there are people that will still talk today. Oh, remember before Charlottesville and, Richard Spencer, that, the Ku Klux Klan? Yeah, there are like 5 people there. Yeah, there are like 5 people. One of them was, in the purple, excuse me, purple sheets and whatnot. Yeah. But Dees saw the Klan as a perfect target. Edgerton wrote, for millions of Americans, the KKK still personified violent white supremacy in America. And Dees perceived chinks, and not in that way, chinks in the Klan's armor, poverty and poor education in its ranks, competitive squabbling among leaders, scattered and disunited factions, undisciplined behavior, limited funds, few, if any, good lawyers. So basically, it was a slam dunk, basically. Along with legal challenges to what was left of the Klan, the center launched KlanWatch, which monitored the group's activities. KlanWatch was the seed for what would become the broader-based intelligence project, which tracks extremists, and produces the SPLC's annual hate group list. The only thing easier than beating the Klan in court, like shooting fish in a barrel, one of Dee's associates told Edgerton, was raising money off Klan fighting from liberals up north who still had fresh visions of the violent confrontations of the 60s in their heads. The SPLC got a huge publicity boost in July 1983 when 3 Klansmen firebombed its headquarters. A melted clock from the burned down building struck at 3:47 a.m. is featured in the main lobby of the Montgomery office today. In 1987, the center won a landmark $7 million damage judgment against the Klan. A decade later, in 1998, it scored a $38 million judgment against Klansmen who burned down a black church in South Carolina. With those victories, Dees claimed the right to boast in perpetuity that the SPLC had effectively shut down the KKK. By the time I touched down in Montgomery, the center had increased its staff and branched out considerably, adding an educational opponent called Teaching Tolerance and expanding its legal and intelligence operations to target a broad range of right-wing groups and injustices. But the basic formula perfected in the 80s remained the same. The annual hate group list, which in 2008 included 1,020 organizations, both small and large, remains a valuable source for journalists and a masterstroke of Dee's marketing talents. Every year, when the center publishes it, mainstream outlets write about the rising tide of hate discovered by the SPLC's researchers, and reporters frequently refer to the list when they write about the groups. As critics have long pointed out, however, the hate group designations also drive attention to the extremists. Many groups, including the Religious Right, Family Research Council, and the Alliance Defending Freedom, raise considerable money decrying the SPLC's attacks. In recent years, the center has broadened its legal work, returning to some poverty law. Around 80 attorneys now work in 5 southern states, challenging, among other things, penal and juvenile justice systems and draconian anti-immigration laws. But the center continues to take in far more than it spends. And it still tends to emphasize splashy cases that are sure to draw national attention. Most notable, when I was there, was a lawsuit to remove a Ten Commandments monument that was brazenly placed in the main lobby of the Alabama Supreme Court building, just across the street from the SPLC headquarters, by Roy Moore, who was then the state's chief justice. Like the SPLC's well-publicized 2017 lawsuit against Andrew England, the neo-Nazi publisher of Daily Stormer. Center's strategy, taking on cases guaranteed to make headlines and inflame the far right while demonstrating to potential donors that the center has not only all the right enemies, but also the grit to know how to take them down. I tell people in New York or Washington, D.C. that I used to work at the Southern Poverty Law Center, their eyes tend to light up. "Oh, wow, what was that like?" they ask. Sometimes, depending on my mood, I'll regale them with stories about the reporting I did there, exposing anti-immigration extremists on the Arizona-Mexico border, tracking down a wave of anti-transgender hate crimes, writing a comprehensive history of the religious right's war on gays, but then considering whether to explain what an unsettling experience it could be. I'll add, it's complicated though, and try to change the subject. For those of us who worked in the Poverty Palace, putting it all into perspective isn't easy, even to ourselves. We were working with a group of dedicated and talented people fighting all kinds of good fights. We were part of the con, and we knew it. Look at that. Outside of the work, we spent a lot of time drinking and dishing in Montgomery bars and restaurants about the oppressive security regime, the hyperbolic fundraising appeals, and the fact that though the center claimed to be effective in fighting extremism, hate always continued to be on the rise, more dangerous than ever. With each year's report on hate groups, the SPLC making hate pay, we said. It's true. The firing of Dees has flushed up all the uncomfortable questions again. Did we enable racial discrimination and harassment by failing to speak out? Of course we did, a former colleague told me. As we parsed the news over the phone, it's shameful. But when you're there, you kind of end up accepting things. I never even considered speaking out when things happened to me. It doesn't feel good to recognize that I was into the work and so motivated by it, I kind of shrugged off what was going on. A couple days later, she texted me, I'm having SPLC nightmares. Aren't we all, I thought. So there we go. So there we are. Like I say, I wanted to, I think I've read that before on stream. Sorry, my my boomer brain there, but I find that sort of thing fascinating, to say the least. I find it fascinating because this was this is what you have to realize about these folks at the end of the day. Once again, this is the whole battle that goes on, between these different folks. They'll cancel these other folks because it's like, oh, you're a TERF. We're not going to talk to you. But it's like, then when you bring up the SPLC, it's like, didn't the SPLC take money, as it was shown, is that, they received, money from the Ku Klux Klan to keep things quiet. And by then, the Ku Klux Klan wasn't even really a fucking thing. People, the Southern Poverty Law Center makes it sound like they were fighting, the 1960s, isn't that? That's not the reality, is it? That's not the reality at all. It was a way to make money. So, it has to be put into context, doesn't it? Like I say, once again, people can say, oh, you're a Wignat, this and that. And I'll just say, yeah, fuck it. I am. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. Hell, we're all going to have to face those facts. We're going to have to stare into the abyss and just we're going to have to make our choices, man. Anyway, I know y'all are all asleep. And, man, took me too fucking long to read that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let y'all listen to this. And I may put out part 4 tomorrow. I'll see how I feel. I keep on promising y'all this type of shit, and then I don't deliver. Kind of tricky of me. Anyway, y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.